Did we just make that joke? Do we need to edit that one out? And all right, everybody, welcome to the 9 Years podcast with myself, Nick Draper, and the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deakins. Thank you very much for joining us this week. We are sure that you are listening to this podcast in a group of 6 or fewer. I know there were lots of 9 Years podcast listening parties that are held on a Friday night, where you all get round one person's laptop and listen to the show, but sadly no more. Well, actually, this one you might be okay. It's Monday. Because for the next few days, COVID will take a break. But then from Monday is when it all comes back in. Who knows what's going on? Nobody is the honest answer. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us this week. We will be previewing the 2020-2021 season, League One season this week. And we're going to try and figure out a better way of saying 2020-2021 because it's kind of awkward. We'll be reviewing the Oxford game. We'll look ahead to the Northampton game. We will play Whose Nine Is It Anyway? All the usual gumph. But to begin with, let's start with a shout out and a call out. And I'm going to get somewhat self-indulgent with my shout out again this week. I'm just going to say teachers and schools that are back and are back in the throng and the swing of things, trying to work with COVID regulations and changed timetables and staggered start and finish times. It's an absolute ball ache. I'm not going to lie. Big shout out to any teachers listening. We all know what it's like. It's not easy. My call out, Stu, I'm going for Phil Foden and Mason Greenwood this week. And the only reason I'm doing this is to kind of make a point about academy graduates. Because there was always throughout football culture, we always love our academy graduates. And we always think about these young guys that are finally breaking through and making it to the big time. We're just like, yes, and everyone wants to see them do really well. And of course we do. And Wimbledon, we're famed for it. But there's a little bit of, I don't know what the word is for it really. It's not sycophantic, but sometimes always think of these players as being these great, honest, humble guys that are coming through, working hard and being like really shy and timid and modest and humble and all these things. But we forget sometimes they're human beings and they can be dicks as well. And Phil Foden is a bit of a dick. I'm not going to lie. And for all the press that he got last year when people saying, poor Phil Foden, he's not getting any games for Manchester City. He's sitting there on thousands of pounds a week, not playing. I'm like, he's fine. Don't worry about him. And now, he's just a bit of a knob, really. Is that harsh?
No, it's not. I think, you know what, Gareth Southgate has built a very strong unit there, hasn't he? And he bases it on trust. And you can imagine he's had such a nightmare. He's had no games, obviously, because of COVID, so international football was scrapped. But you think about Kyle Walker, who decided to just flout the rules. You had Jack Grealish, who again decided to do that. You then had Maguire, and obviously the stuff's happened in Greece. And now he's got this. I felt for him a little bit because he does try and give them a bit of trust. He doesn't keep them behind. You know, if you look at the old England squads, they used to go to training camps to like the World Cup, and they'd have nothing around them. They'd be bored out of their minds. But you know, Phil Fogden and that decided to bring entertainment towards them, didn't they?
Phil Foden, yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes. Fogden was in Coronation Street.
Foden is from Manchester, isn't he? On that side. They're human beings. But yes, let's not forget they're pampered. You know, they are pampered like anything. And I feel like the old days of being called up for England was really exciting. These kids are not, you know, they're used to going on tours. They're not going to Iceland. Isn't a new thing for them. You know, they're going on world tours and stuff like that. They think they don't think they're invincible, but I don't really think they understand the consequences sometimes of their actions.
No, they don't really have. They take these things for granted. And the riches of the game. I'm pretty sure, Stu, that they're not going to Iceland as regularly as you think they are. Pretty sure they're shopping in Waitrose. Or actually, what I think they're doing is they're getting their stuff delivered. Their Premier League nutritionists and stuff are delivering them pre-packed meals and stuff like that and all that nonsense because, God forbid, they should cook for themselves. Moving swiftly on. Shout out to our patrons, our patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for signing up for your £5 a month with early access content and bonus content. This week we'll give a shout out to number 6, Paul Jeffrey, starting in centre half position. Thank you, Paul. Number 14, is Gary Keane. Was 14, like, was that Tor Pedersen or someone back in the day? I don't know, but thank you very much, Gary. It's much appreciated signing up. And another Gary who is falling off my screen, which isn't helping me. Gary Fletcher comes in at 88. Can't think why you picked that number, Gary. Doesn't mean anything to any of us, really, to be honest with you. It was 8 years before I was born, which is a lie. 6 years before I was born. But thank you very much, Gary. And Gary Fletcher, of course, the star of Dream Team back in the day. Was that Carl Fletcher? Carl Fletcher.
Carl Fletcher. Great. Was that, was it what they called Melchester? No, Melchester, was it?
Melchester was Royal
Harchester. Yeah,
Harchester was the Dragons.
Great. But that must have been, I'm surprised you remember that, because you probably were in nappies when that was on.
I wore nappies until I was 14, so even in real life, it's true. Yes, I do remember Dream Team. It was a highlight of a Tuesday and a Thursday for half an hour, and then they changed it to an hour long on a Sunday. I have memories. I can't remember who was shot at the cup final. I forgot his name, but I do remember him. And who can forget Linda Block, of course.
Yes.
Why are these things not on demand? Why can't I not go onto Netflix and watch your Sky on demand and just be like every single episode of Dream Team ever? Instead of trying to watch them on crappy YouTube streams.
But could you imagine the quality, though? The quality of the picture would be terrible. I don't know about you, but I watched some things back on YouTube from like the old days, and the picture quality, I'm like, how did we ever watch that? It's ridiculously poor.
I can still watch things from the late 90s, Stu. It's fine. I can get away with it. It's all right.
Just about.
Anyway, right. We have football to talk about. Bizarrely, actual proper football. And just for a change, we played in the League Cup first round and lost. Just for a change, we played Oxford and lost. Although technically over 90 minutes we drew with a team that I fancied and we'll come on to this later to get promoted this season. The big talking point, Stu, is penalties, as it was the League Cup first round the year before. Anthony Hartigan missed in normal time in the same way that Joe Pickett missed in normal time last season, and then did not, unlike Joe Pickett, he did not go on to take one in the shootout. We will never know why the decision was taken for Anthony Hartigan not to take a penalty in the shootout. But it's one of two things. It's either he was down to take one. If you had a list of penalty takers in your head before kickoff, he's taken it in normal time. You'd expect him to be on the list for the shootout.
Yeah.
So it's either that he's taken himself off that list because he's missed, or he's put himself forward and Glyn Hodges has said, no, not after what happened, you're not taking one. Both of those are horrendous outcomes for his confidence and morale, I would imagine.
Yeah, they are. I saw on the iFollow footage, I did see when they were waiting for the penalties to start taking, I did see Glyn Hodges just give Anthony Hartigan a bit of a hug. Not a hug in terms of like, he's distraught, more of a like acknowledgement, the OK and stuff like that. So normally penalties is very much whoever's confident would take them. His confidence may have been dropped because of that. I think, hey, look, do you know what? It's a difficult question to ask him. We could ask it, but I don't think it's going to do any merit on it, if I'm being truthful. But, I've said already on social media and on the radio show on Sunday, I'm just disappointed that no one else stepped forward. If Anthony Hartigan was the most confident person taking that penalty, fine. It could have been a case that they took him in training and practice, because let's not forget, we'd have had penalties potentially for the Charlton game if that had ended level in that Tim Pot trophy. So we probably been practicing penalties for a little while. So your gut feeling is Anthony Hartigan was the best penalty taker, and he chose to take it. And he is our set piece taker. So we have to remember that. But it wasn't. It was a good save, but it wasn't a great penalty. It was a height that a keeper will save it, because that's the height he would dive. But I was just a bit disappointed at a forward or an attacking player. I don't really class Anthony Hartigan as an attacking player.
So, I don't know. We've had this debate before about who takes penalties, and for me, I don't mind what position the player is. People have different dead ball abilities, as you say. And growing up, I remember Julian Dix was always taking penalties for West Ham. West Ham seemed to get a lot of penalties when I was younger. And he'd smash him in the top corner. I felt Hartigan was going for that approach. I felt like he was trying to smash it into the top corner, and he just undercooked it. And that's why a lot of pace and power, but as you said, a nice height. After that, what we did see, in hindsight, is a wonderful thing. In the penalties, we saw Luke O'Neill. Again, dead balls, absolutely phenomenal. Smashes his way, no problem. And then Joe Pickett. But Joe Pickett, a lot of people have said, why didn't he take it? Fantastic penalty in the shootout, but his record, I don't think he's taken one since the Milton Keynes game last season. I think Marcus Forss came in and he was on them. I think Kwesi took our last one away at Rotherham. you look at Pogut's penalty in the shootout and think, well, why wasn't he taking it? But there's lots of different reasons involved in it.
My gut feeling is, though, the forwards are there to score goals, and normally these forwards are on goal bonuses. So it's always, if you look at, say, Ollie Palmer, I can bet your bottom dollar he's going to take a penalty. Takes them for Crawley. I suppose that's just me. And yes, you're right. Pigott has missed penalties before. He put his penalty away really, really easily in a shootout. But we also know he's missed the penalties when he's just rolled it into the corner. So he's one of those, when he rolls into the corner, it's great. When he doesn't, it's an easy save. But I suppose it's the technical ability, because it's interesting. I was watching the England game when they had the penalty at the end. And the technique, if you look at Raheem Sterling's penalty take, it's very much, the disguise, isn't it? Whereas Hartigan, naturally a level below that easily, doesn't disguise it. And you can sort of see with his body shape where he's going to go. So it's not, my criticism isn't really about Hartigan taking it and missing it, because anyone can miss a penalty. I just wonder why we've done a defensive midfielder taking a penalty. That's my two bob on it.
Talk about technique. Callum Riley, very short run-up. I have issues with these short run-ups. I'd never liked them. And when I saw how he was only taking a couple of yards, I feared he was going to miss. And, well, he was saved. We didn't miss the penalty, in inverted commas. They were saved. But it was poor pen. His and Nesta's penalties in the shootout were poor penalties. I mean, but it is a lottery at the end of the day. Overall, we should be positive with what you consider a draw at a difficult ground, a difficult opponent. Defensively, really, really solid, didn't we? We seemed to go with, it was a 3-5-2, but in defensive terms, it became more a 5-4-1, which isolated Joe Pigott a lot of the time. I actually thought Joe Pigott had a good game. I saw people saying, well, we're being critical of him on social media and what have you, but I think playing up top on his own, not his strength, we've known this, but I think that part of his game with his back to goal, coming deep, making things like laying balls off, being a link, I think that's come on massively in his time with us, and I thought he actually put in a really good shift on Saturday.
I agree, and we've said all along he's not a target man as such, but he's there to try and hold it, link it, and most of his time he will. He doesn't. For me, Pigott, when he gets in the area, he's dangerous. I know it sounds silly, but he's a very dangerous in the box striker. Out of the box, I think he's not as great. But last year we just didn't get enough balls in the box. We didn't hold it enough. So obviously with Ollie Palmer coming in, you feel that Pigott's role will be a bit different, and will probably bring out the excellent ability that Pigott has. There's no doubt about that. Interesting when I was watching, so I was looking at the average positions for players. I found a lovely new app. I'm not going to tell you what it is because people will nick it. But I found a lovely new app that gives you heat maps and stuff like that. The interesting thing was, you're right, Pigott was up there on his own. You would have thought Ryan Longman would have been his closest sort of, average, his closest partner. It actually wasn't. It was actually Callum Riley. Okay. Your right. You raised eyes there.
I was expecting Woodyard's name, to be honest with you, because Woodyard was getting up and down so much. But
his average position. If you look at Woodyard, Hartigan was the most defensive of the three. Woodyard just in front, but Callum Riley was actually further forward than Ryan Longman was in that game. So it's going to be interesting how we link in our play, and to give you, not to get too tactical, but, if we look at the two fullbacks or wingbacks, Che Alexander and Nesta was the one that was furthest forward the whole time, whereas Che Alexander, he didn't get forward as much. However, the flip side to that is defensively, we were really decent, we were really solid, and I quite liked it, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Paul Cannon-Bailly seems to be a preferred choice at the moment. Will Nightingale is on the bench. He's got to be fit from what I get, but he's not gone straight back into that side. And obviously now with Luke O'Neill taking the right of the three centre halves, it's a really interesting decision now in terms of what happens. So defensively good. Che Alexander, I expect to see a bit more of him against teams that we can attack when we're at home or when we're at Loftus Road or wherever we're going to be travelling this year. But I think, if you look at the whole performance, we went to Oxford a little while ago, end of the last season, and got hammered 5-0. We've gone back with a new team, and we look like there's something about us. And, my man of the match by a mile was Alex Woodyard. Wasn't necessarily the fans' vote. I went to Ryan Longman. But I felt the midfield presence we had there with Callum Riley and Alex Woodyard literally hounding the midfield of Oxford really gives me hope that we can grind out some results this year.
Of course, the upside to the defeat is the fact that we won't be in the second round, where Oxford were drawn to play Watford. And who really wants to play Watford? So I feel like we've dodged a bullet there. I didn't look at the rest of the draw, to be honest with you. It's really strange this year. It's trying to keep track of things is difficult because it just doesn't feel quite right. It doesn't have that whole excitement of the start of the new season and seeing who's doing what.
Well, yeah, and wasn't the second and third round drawn at that point?
Apparently so,
yeah. And also the League Cup's going to be, I think the fourth round is literally due for the end of this month. So if you look at it from a financial point of view, and we have to look at it from that, we probably done well getting knocked out because that would have been a home game or a game at Loftus Road. And I'm pretty sure Loftus Road, we'd have had to pay Loftus Road some additional money. So you never want to see you get knocked out of a cup, but we also didn't want to get a home game. So we have to be conscious of that this year.
And we talk about the start of the season. The league season starts this weekend. So you're listening to this on the Friday. It starts tomorrow in League One. The Football League season, I think Championship have a Friday night game, again with a team from Hertfordshire that we don't really want to talk about. I do laugh that in this time of no fans or anything like that, they're still getting teams to travel for 8 o'clock kickoffs from Middlesbrough down to essentially London. It's like, you probably could give them a bit of slack there, couldn't you? You could have picked any other game to put on alive. I don't think Watford, Middlesbrough, I don't think any neutrals are going, that's a game I really want to watch. The logic of the fixture computer, the fixture algorithm. Let's not get into algorithms again. We've been there, done that. Right, League One season. We start away at Northampton.
Cobblers.
No, really, it does. Now, we'll start with Northampton in terms of teams that we think will go down. So really, realistically, we are looking for 4 teams that will finish below us in the league this season. That is our chief first primary aim. I think Northampton will be one of those. Do you think there will be 3 others? And if so, who will those 3 be?
See, I'll be truthful. I'm not thinking Northampton are going to be one of those relegation teams. When you look at last year, one of the things I looked at Northampton. So I was a little bit, I say sad. I'm always sad anyway. But obviously the playoffs last year, I wanted to just try and get him last year, like a couple of months ago. Northampton was an interesting one because they got in due to points per game. And I was just curious how they, what their team was like. And what I noticed was that they really heavily invested in the loan market, and you probably remember they had Callum Morton, who got, I think, 9 goals in 12. And in the end, on his own, realistically, got them through to League One. He's not with them this year. He's gone to Lincoln, which is quite an interesting move for him. But I've got a feeling that Keith Curle will use the loan market quite wisely. They've got rid of lots of players. Got those players coming in. For me, they're a dark horse. It looks like Keith Curle's obviously got quite a lot of contacts. If you look at where he is. So I don't think Northampton will be. My 4 to go down, let me just let you know what that is. So mine are Burton, Crewe, Rochdale and Accrington.
Crewe, Rochdale, Accrington and who, sorry?
Burton. So I think with Burton Albion, obviously Nigel Clough left, didn't he, because of the financial situation. And they went for an in-house option. I reckon their budget is going to be pretty, let's be fair, they got into the Championship on a shoestring budget. I think they could be one of the clubs that will really be impacted by the COVID economy situation.
See, I think there's something to be said here about managers, because Keith Curle, yes, experienced manager, but has spent the majority of his managerial career with Carlisle in League Two. I think it's been about over 7 years. He had about a year in charge of Notts County when they were in League One. Aside from that, he's not really managed in the division. And I think it's not a huge gap or anything like that, but it would just be interesting to see how he copes with the higher level. As you say, with a team that might well be looking on loans and tight budgets. Burton, managerial-wise, you say Jake Buxton, gone in there. Again, I know budgets and tight budgets. I still see a lot of experience and quality in that Burton team. They are heavily tipped to go down this year. A lot of people have said Burton to go down. But I look and they've got Stephen Quinn in there, they've got Luke Atkins, they've got Luke Varney, they've brought in Nick Eardley, I think. Kean Bolt has gone to Burton, I believe. So there's loads of experience in there. I think it should be enough to keep them up.
It's a tough league, though. When you look at the teams, it's really interesting. I think the top 10 sort of picks themselves, and we can all mix around the orders of them and stuff like that. I always just think there's one team that drops. And you're right, they have got experience, but those players are naturally a year older. The old saying goes. They're not going to be a year younger, are they? I'm not going to do one of your tricks. Tricks. But yeah, I think there's going to be one team. I've sort of gone for that. I think Accrington is self-explanatory. Do you know what I mean? They're going to have one of the shortest, lowest budgets. Rochdale, not to plug, but I was obviously on the podcast with Darren McAntee in the fans forum. They had a Rochdale fan there who said a £1.9 million deficit. They've lost Henderson as well, who's gone to the money bags in League Two at Salford. So I think and Crew, people are saying that they're going to come up and do really well in their academy. They've always got a good academy, I get that. I just think it's a tough league. I don't think they will stay up.
Crew are one that I just don't know what to think of, to be honest. Accrington,
none of us do.
Well, no, this is also a point. I'm listening and reading season predictions in League One. People talk about how teams performed last season, but, I mean, we're 10 games that weren't played for each team. And I think you cannot read anything into final positions last season. I really don't think. I don't think Oxford are in this league. If I don't think Peterborough potentially are in this league. Potentially we're not in this league if football is actually played as opposed to the points per game. So it's really difficult to judge. Crewe in particular, though, I do find tough. I don't know what to think of them. I think your other picks there, Rochdale, I agree with. I think they'll be gone. Accrington, still always a really difficult place to go. Really tough team to play against. Yep. I think they might be all right. Shrewsbury, nothing at Shrewsbury is telling me or is convincing me that there'll be anything other than a struggle this season.
I agree, but I feel like they're not. I feel like Shrewsbury are an established League One team now. I suppose that's what I'm sort of looking at my logic on it. Because Swindon coming up, people feel Swindon are going to do really well. Plymouth, but let's be fair, Plymouth, they got relegated for a reason. Plymouth, it's just very difficult, isn't it? And I think there's probably a blanket of probably about 8 or 9 clubs. To show how weird it is prediction. I saw one prediction that Bristol Rovers can get relegated. Yeah, their recruitment and the money they've got, I was thinking, I don't see how that's going to happen. I took the option of speaking about Milton Keynes. I took that option because that would just be out of spite that I wanted to get relegated. But I just left them out of it. But yeah, I think, again, the interesting thing you just say about Peterborough, the laugh that I had with Darren McAntee off camera or off recording was that them getting not promoted really cost them because they felt that if they had got promoted, which they were probably on course to get automatic, that they would have got a hell of a lot more money for Ivan Toney as a championship striker rather than as a League One, a big monies apparently. So yeah, Wickham done well. Good luck to Wickham, but no one knows. It's a very. I think it's going to be the first month. I know we always say that the first month to settle in, but this one is going to be really interesting. And also, let's not forget that the transfer window is open, I believe, until the end of October. So again, clubs can strengthen right up until then.
Let's just clarify before we move on, because I want to come back to that Peterborough point, but let's just get this bottom four now. So you said your 4, Rochdale, Accrington, Burton, and Crewe.
Yep.
And I'm going to go Rochdale, Northampton, Shrewsbury, and it's hard,
Yeah.
It's hard. I'm tempted to go Milton Keynes because I just don't like them. But it wouldn't surprise me either.
But you know what?
Shock news that I don't like Milton Keynes, by the way.
But John, there's so many factors in this season. This is probably the most difficult season ever to predict in terms of that. But also, remember, we're going to have to see how strong the teams are in terms of mental strength. There's likelihood to be no away fans next season. That's the likelihood for most of the season. So you're going to have clubs. So the big clubs are going to have Sunderland take 1,000, Pompey take 1,000. How is it going to affect those clubs? Would it mean that the bigger clubs, when they travel, are a bit easier to beat? I'm not saying they are, but there's so many little things that could be it. And it could be mental strength. It could be a case of our team needs to be more mentally stronger, because if we are going to have no away fans and we go on a bad run, we're not going to have those fans to pick us up. But equally, some clubs, we know that they turn on their teams very quickly. So it's just a different game. It feels like a different game, like different rules.
and I will come back to that Peterborough point, but as you mentioned it there with no fans, I wonder if the absence of fans in stadiums is going to really help Sunderland and Ipswich, because the pressure on those players and those squads must be increased. When they're underperforming, those crowds turn. And they are two clubs that really should be in the top six without any problem whatsoever, especially they've still got really strong squads. Ipswich arguably, could argue, got the best squad in the division. The pressure of performing at the Stadium of Light, at Portman Road, not there. There's no fans. And I wonder if that's going to free them up a little bit.
That's the thing, isn't it? You're right. How much does it hinder them? I suppose it's one of those things. If we're going to Sunderland, I think we've got a midweek, I believe. But if we're going to Sunderland with no away fans going and Sunderland have 20,000 in there and they get an early goal, that's really psychologically really difficult for the away team to get anything, from that side of it. But you're right. The flip side to that is that the fans got on their bank very quickly, and Ipswich definitely was one last year. But equally, we know when we've had teams of Ipswich, Pompey, Sunderland, Bristol Rovers have good waves back. There's no doubt that does give them a lift. So it's really mental strength of teams this year. It's going to be. Remember we were talking about Tranmere, weren't we? About the fact that we could have had, if we played on the season last year, we could have had a 6-pointer in an empty stadium, which totally moves everything in terms of home advantage and that side of it. So this is why I think, bookies at the moment, they could be stung because there could be some interesting developments in the league.
Sunderland and Ipswich, would they be in your top 6?
Yeah, they would be. So do you want me to give me your playoff teams?
The playoff 4, yeah.
So I've gone in. So this is the order that I think there'll be. So Peterborough will be the first playoff place, then Sunderland, then Bristol Rovers, and then Ipswich, the final playoff place.
That's interesting because there's a team there that I have in the playoffs that you've not mentioned. I'm wondering if that's because you're saving them for the top 2, which would be quite something if you were. Because, well, let's get out of the way. Fleetwood Town?
Nope.
Okay, well, that's fine then. We can keep the top 2 separate for the time being then. So just remind me again of your final 4.
I've gone for Peterborough, Sunderland, Bristol Rovers, and Ipswich Town.
And Bristol Rovers are very much your dark horse.
Yeah, I think they've playing well. I've got a feeling that Bristol Rovers will do well this year.
Okay. Peterborough not in the top 2, no? Is that just because the 2 you've picked, well, I think I've finally worked out who they are, you just feel they're a little bit stronger?
Yeah, do you know what, Peterborough, I just don't know. I think they could have a hangover from this season. It has affected them. Ivan Toney's quite a big loss for them. They always have a slow start as well, don't they? Because they normally have quite a new team. Although I think they've said this year actually the turnover is not as big as it normally has been. I don't know. I just don't see them as automatic this year.
Because you mentioned the hangover of what happened to them last season, but they're beaten playoff finalists last season. I'm expecting them to have a little bit of a hangover. But have you gotten them put Oxford in your top 2?
I have, yeah. My top 2, Oxford and Pompey.
Yeah.
Oxford, I just think they're solid. They've kept Brannigan, who I really, really like. They got Russell's in the back 4, got a strong goalkeeper, and that was before he saved the penalties against us. And I really think they've probably got one of the best players in this league in Matty Taylor. If he starts scoring goals, as we saw what he did for Bristol Rovers, he can score goals this level. So I just have a feeling at Oxford, I know we don't like the manager and that, and if I'm going to do a prediction, I'll try and do about my what my heart tells me, but my head tells me Oxford will do well this year.
There's a dark horse as well, possibly in Lincoln, that could break into that group.
Yeah.
Good manager. Michael Appleton, famously, we expected him to be sacked by Oxford on our very first podcast many years ago. But he's turned out to be a decent manager. He's recruited well at Lincoln, turned over a fair number of players, but they've got to, I kind of think they'd be in the top 8 at least, I think. Yeah,
and I think that's where it was tough, wasn't it? Because I think that top 10 is quite a tough pick. Even look at Blackpool. I think Blackpool could do well this year. The only reason I took Blackpool out of my top 7 was purely for the fact, top 6, sorry. The reason I took them out of there is I felt their home fans would make a difference this year. You know, to be fair, Blackpool have been playing behind closed doors. This is nothing new for them, as well as one other team in Buckinghamshire. But I just took it. You know, I thought, no, they're not going to do that. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But with Lincoln, the interesting thing is that I know I talked about this Callum Morton already, but he's actually at West Brom, and I feel that Appleton has used his contacts very well there, because I think he had the coaching roles, didn't he? And I really like this kid. I think this kid is going to do really, really well. So yeah, he's a good manager. He knows the game.
Portsmouth champions?
No, I've gone for Oxford champions.
Okay.
Portsmouth
runners up. Okay.
Yeah, I just think they've been there or thereabouts the whole way through. And I just feel, you know, with the teams that have gone out of, you know, the teams that have come out of League One, I think now they are. It was when Luton, I felt Luton went up because every other decent team had gone up. So, you know, that was Luton's turn, and it's the same with Pompey. But if you notice that I've not actually mentioned any of the actual relegated teams from the Championship, I was thinking about that as well.
That was going to be my next question, actually, because I mean, we're pretty much in agreement that of those, your top six: Portsmouth, Oxford, Peterborough, Sunderland, Ipswich, Bristol Rovers. Bristol Rovers are the one that I'd question and maybe put a Lincoln in there. I'm tempted to go for a wild card. I do think Plymouth. I think Plymouth have recruited well. Got a good manager. I think that could be another dark horse in there. But I think we're in broad agreement with those 6, 7, 8 teams. Lincoln, obviously, as well, perhaps being in and around it. But we've not mentioned the 3 relegated clubs. And I don't think in history of 3 relegated clubs from Championship into League One ever been more of a wild card than this year, because there's just no way of knowing. Wigan financially, Hull with their ownership issues, even though they've got a good squad. We forget they have Tom Eaves, who at this level should be scoring lots and lots of goals. And Charlton, who, again, lots of things going on there, but they've still kept together a decent squad with a good manager. But It's almost like their seasons are going to be seasons of stabilising and not imploding, which means neither going up nor going down. 3
clubs have too much going on in the background for me. And I think, you know, when I said to you about mental strength, I think that's a really big thing. Charlton showed it when we played them early on. You could argue it's a tin pot trophy, but they've got good players. But if you're not switched on and you're not, you know, if you're not too sure of your ownership, you're not too sure. We talk about players worried about getting contracts, you know, from that. Well, you've also got clubs. Charlton, you know, are they going to get a takeover? Does that mean they can stay? Wigan, are they going to get bought out? Because they need, I think they set a deadline, didn't they, for that? And from what I understand with Wigan, they've got, no one wants to buy everything in. So I think Wigan's training ground and the ground and everything is so separate. And I think owners are really worried about taking on debt. And in Hull, you've just got a basket case up there, haven't you? And I get what you say about Tom Eaves, but he was at Gillingham, he done okay. But is he the same player coming down to League One? Again, there's a lot of issues going on there. But I think this is what's going to happen, though. I think the clubs now coming down from the Championship, more than ever now, are all going to be clubs that are in turmoil in some other way. You know, if we have, for say, Sheffield Wednesday could have been relegated. Again, turmoil behind there because of their structure. So it sort of shows you what the Championship's like. And it's, you know, where we had the teams of like Sheffield United and that coming down who are really, really strong, I don't think we're going to see that now.
There are 2 clubs that we have not mentioned in any way, shape, or form. We have not. Okay, we have talked about. We've mentioned Gillingham's name. We've not really talked about them, but we'll just forget they exist because sick of the sight. I'm bored of Gillingham now. The other 2 teams were Doncaster, and again, similarly, with all due respect, Doncaster. Any Doncaster fan listening, don't care. Sorry, Doncaster is just a club I look at and go, who? What? What's? They're just there, just making up numbers, really. And I still haven't been to their stadium either. So who knows if I'll get that opportunity this coming season. Lincoln away would be nice if we could get back into stadiums. The final team we've not mentioned is ourselves.
Yes.
Where do we think Wimbledon will finish back in Plough Lane in League One?
Well, do you know what? This one's a really difficult one because, of course, your heart and your head say different things, don't they? If you look at nearly every prediction, we've said that people are picking different ones, but we're in everyone's bottom 4, majority of people's bottom team. And I get that when you look at it, because surely any team that's going to struggle is going to be a fans' own club with no money. But we're moving into a new ground, and I know, you know, teams that move into new grounds can struggle. But if I look at if my head talks to me, which it should do, that's what we always say.
It depends how you say it. It depends how that works.
Yeah.
It could be a good thing and a bad thing.
But what I mean, when I look at what we've recruited in terms of Ollie Palmer, Alex Woodyard, I still like the goalkeeper. Our kids are a year older, wiser, experienced. And then when I look at what we had before, I like this team. So I can understand. Hey, look, do you know what? I can understand why people are saying that we should be relegation favourites, and that might be the case. But if we keep players fit and stuff like that, again, we don't really know how strong everyone else is. We've said that all the way through. I'm hoping we finish around about 15th, 14th, 15th, and that'll be a good season for us because we also have to remember we're going to be at Loftus Road, new ground, but then going to be at Plough Lane, new ground. Could be, well, of course, it's new ground, but it could be an empty Plough Lane. And that, when I say about mental strength, if you think about it, we've interviewed quite a lot of players recently, and all they said is, can't wait to get a Plough Lane, can't wait to get a Plough Lane. That's a different ballgame if Plough Lane's empty. Because it's that sort of, I wish the fans were here and stuff. So, yeah, I think sort of around about 15th, 16th.
The other thing with the Plough Lane element is that, like you said, Stu, and I feel the same, I feel like our season doesn't start until we're at Plough Lane in front of fans. And that's a really difficult mentality to deal with when you're a player. I feel like, as I used this reference the other day, it's like cooking in someone else's kitchen, but knowing you're only there for a short period of time. So you're not really putting your heart into it, kind of thing. And that's a job. Glyn will be all over that. We know that. And sorting that one out. That shouldn't be an issue. But sometimes these things subconsciously can have an effect, and we just don't know what it'll be like. I do know that also it doesn't help. They're not particularly glamorous fixtures, as we've said before, to get us underway. Northampton, Plymouth, we've been there many times before. Fleetwood in the playoffs for me, but I'm so sick and tired of playing Fleetwood. Talk about, Stu, you mentioned earlier about having no away fans. Fleetwood fans never travelled anyway. So when you're home to Fleetwood, it's going to be no different because they don't have any fans. I don't know where they're getting all this money from. Anyway, that's another story for another day. We ourselves, you said 14th, 15th would be great. 442 magazine have got us relegated second bottom. Not the top 20 podcast, if you listen to that for their 1 to 24 review. They've kept us up this year, where normally they relegate us. They've predicted us to go down in every League One season, but this year they haven't. They've got us, I think, 19th. So 19th or 18th.
Yeah, I'm not just saying that because they kept us up, but actually I do respect what they say. They've got some good knowledge in there. So that's quite refreshing, actually, because everything I've seen that's been done to print or website has been us going down. So, cool. That's quite impressive.
Yeah, and they said similar things to you, Stu, in terms of recruitment. They said that our strength and depth was a lot better. I'm not sure our depth is quite as deep as they think it is, but it is. We have got more options. And to come back to earlier when we were talking about the Oxford game and Anthony Hartigan and penalties and things like that, I'm very wary of Hartigan. I know we started the podcast talking about him, but just to throw this one in there, we're talking about squad depth. Jacko coming in, Jack Redoni at some point coming in, Woodyard, Riley. Hartigan's got a real battle on to get into that starting lineup.
Yeah, he has. And I think the thing with Anthony Hartigan is I don't really think he can play another position. So, we look at players that can adapt and can play anywhere. If you think about others, I would say Will Nightingale can play centre-half, can play centre midfield. Luke O'Neill can play right wing-back. Well, can play anywhere down the right-hand side, can't he? So you're right, he can't really play another position. Jacko coming in, I think we've all forgotten about him because obviously his way with Finland on the under-21s. But I know I've said this a few times, he was Brentford Beast Player of the Year. From people I'm talking to are saying this could be the best player we've had. A lot of pressure on that, but this kid is 20 in November, got good experience. Brentford always had good kids, so he could be our real find. And you have to think that he would probably be competition would be with Andy Hartigan and probably Callum Riley, because I think Alex Woodyard walks into that team, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's club captain or some of that because. I've seen a little bit of him, and he's like a Rash. We call Chris Perry the old Rash, right? He's everything we haven't had, and it's really exciting to see.
Quick note before I get a final prediction from you. Last season, the 442 magazine here says that last season, our goalkeepers were the busiest of any League One goalkeepers. 132 saves, the highest in the division. Just throwing that out there.
Yep.
Right, you said 14th or 15th for us. Is it going to be 14th or 15th? And if it is 15th, who's going to finish 14th?
So let's go for us 14th. I think Northampton will finish 15th.
I will say that we're going to finish 17th, and in 14th place, if I can get my words out, 14th place, let's go for Swindon Town. Why not? Many years ago, we played Swindon. When they got relegated, we played them twice, drew 0-0 with them twice, with a couple of boring games.
Hello, Di Canio as well, remember?
Well, that was before. Do you remember they had a season? They were a season in League One, and they went straight back down. We had 2-0 draw to them, and then Paolo Di Canio, when they got promoted from League Two, or did they go straight back down? Or did we? That was our first season in League One. Sorry, we came up to League One. They got relegated that season, but yeah, Paolo Di Canio were in charge, and they tore us apart down at their place. It was only 2-0, but it could have been like 8.
Yeah, it swings and roundabouts sometimes, isn't it? And quite a lot of roundabouts.
Magic roundabouts, or whatever is it called the Magic Roundabout down in Swindon? It is, isn't it? They call it the Magic Roundabout.
You just literally go, you chance it and just hope no one hits you.
Just go straight through the middle. People get out of your way. It's fine. Right. Share your predictions with us. Let us know how you think we can get on Twitter at 9Wires Podcast, on Facebook as well, or on the website at 9wirespodcast.org. You put your predictions under the article with this week's podcast on it. We have a game to play. Stu, it's Whose Nine Is It Anyway? And Stu, as it is the third week of this game, I thought it was only logical that for this week, the squad number I choose is number 4. So let's begin with, in fact, no, let's do it chronological order. First of all, 1998-99 season, which player wore the number 4?
You know what? I think you might give me an easy one here, but then that's going to lull me into a full sense of security. That would be a season. Was Vinny? I can't remember if Vinny was still here or not then. I'm going to go for Vinny.
Okay, what about our promotion-winning season from the conference in 2010-2011?
It wasn't James Stewart because he was he number? That's a good question.
Thank you.
It wasn't Sam Hatton. Was it Sammy Moore? I'm going for James Stewart just because I think I might be doubting myself in this one.
Okay, and finally, last season, who wore the number 4?
Last season, I forgot about that already. Who the hell was number 4 last season? It wasn't Callum Ryan. He's 33. That should be retired. So was it a centre half last year? Terrell 6. I can't think who number 4 was now. It's not Will Nightingale. It was. I'm trying to think who's in that. Who's in that bit there? Harger was 8. I'm going to go for Terrell Thomas, but I think it's wrong.
So this week, Stu, out of 3, you have got
0.
Oh,
at least I'm consistent. I'm flattered.
And then you're going to kick yourself. 98-99, Vinny had actually gone by this point. It was Chris Perry.
Was he number 4?
He was brought into number 4, yes, after Vinny left. He was moved up and given the number 4 shirt alongside Dean Blackwell at number 5. The season we got promoted from the conference, I'm going to say 2 words to you and you'll guess it, I hope. Car park.
Oh, Stephen Gregory.
There you go.
No, in my head I was thinking that just because the number 4 is normally a defensive midfielder, isn't it? But I was just like, doubtful. Cool. I bet Jamie Stewart was 6, wasn't he?
Jamie Stewart, I think he was 5.
That's close.
Or was he or he might not have been. He might have been something like 20, something random. I can't remember. We'd have to look in. I'm pretty sure 5 rings a bell. I'm pretty sure I remember going up to Macclesfield in the Football League and him being left on his backside as we got hammered 4-0 with a 5 on his back. And then last season, you're going to kick yourself again. It's Rod McDonald.
Out of sight.
Rod. Yeah, there we go. No longer. Because he's left us now, he's dead to us. Like all ex-players, as soon as they leave, Stu, we forget they exist. We never mention them ever again.
Well, he was so distraught being dropped by us, he went as far away as he could.
Where has he gone?
Carlisle.
Oh, okay. All right.
For most people who go to Scotland, he just didn't get that far. He just thought, oh. Well, the thing was, he was confused with COVID. He didn't know what the rules were in Scotland, so he thought, I'll just stick in England.
Wasn't he shut? Wasn't his chain of burger restaurants shut during COVID and lockdown, stuff like that?
But you know what really made me really sad? You know, you talked about Doncaster earlier. I'm wondering how they're going to survive because they're sponsored by Virgin Train. No one gets a train anymore. How are they going to be? Their sponsors buggered, isn't it? Because that's Virgin's been their sponsor for ages.
You're making me wonder who other teams are sponsored with to see if we can make similar jokes. But I don't have time to do it, unfortunately. So we'll just move straight on. We've spoken about Northampton already quite in detail. We do play them on Saturday at their stadium, which is the Sixfield Stadium, but probably has got some sponsor name.
It's changed name. Yeah, I saw it earlier. It's changed name. I can't remember what it's called us. But hey, look, we're going to be Plough Lane, aren't we? Because no one's going to sponsor our stadium.
No, it's always going to be Plough Lane forever and ever and ever and ever. But quick score prediction anyway for Northampton.
I feel we're going to go there and win. I feel we're going to win 2-1.
I think we're going to go there and win as well. And I think it's going to be... let's go for a confident 2-0. Wouldn't that be nice? A clean sheet as well. That would be good, wouldn't it? So we are expecting, as Glyn said last week, a bit of an aerial bombardment to start off with. But, hey, Northampton won't be particularly well rested. They had a long season. They'd play a final to get through. So let's hope we can take some advantage of that. Aside from that, Stu, I think that's it. Reminder that extra content interviews are available on Patreon, patreon.com/9YRS podcast. Oh, I forgot to say as well, sorry, Stu, were there any other games in League One? I always forget this bit.
The funny thing is I researched it this time and you forgot it. Normally,
and I forgot it. I know.
Can I say, there's a hell of a lot of fixtures that are... There's some really... So I think I could probably a handful. So Crewe Alexander Charlton, how, team coming up, team coming down, that sort of side of it. Gillingham Hull again, Lincoln Oxford. You got Sunderland Bristol Rovers. There's a good handful of teams that I think have spent well, a high expectation. Yeah, it's going to be... I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the strength is. And yeah, looking forward to Quest highlights because, well, just need to know what's going on, don't we?
There's a live game on Sky, which is midday on Sunday, Ipswich versus Wigan. So that's one to look out for. We can see how those two are shaping up. That'll be an interesting watch. But yes, so there's that. Fixtures, League One, all starting this weekend. Football is back, kind of. It's all very strange. But thank you very much for joining us this week. Updates from Northampton will be on our Twitter at 9YRS Podcast, and then you can join us again on here. We'll be talking about it on next week's show. But for now, Stu, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Alexa Bliss, who has her own podcast now. So I think it starts on the 22nd of September. So Google that one. Alexa Bliss's own podcast in which she talks about buttering sandwiches and making tea and Monaco or Rachel, all those sorts of things. And a bit of football maybe as well. Anyway, Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, 2 + 2 = 4. And we will speak to you again next Friday.